Hey, everybody. Can you hear me? Stefan here. Happy Thursday. Or, yeah, luckily it's Thursday and no longer Tuesday. How's everybody doing? It's been a brutal week again. Some $2 billion from 500,000 wallet holders got liquidated. Brutal, brutal. Sorry to hear this for everybody that was hit by that, but ultimately it's a shakedown whereby the institutional investors are coming in and trying to take control and shake down everybody. Don't leverage up that crazily. Go 30% leverage. This market is extremely volatile. We don't know where it's going to go. So just be cautious out there. And there are extremely sophisticated traders out there that have big pools of money behind them, bigger than what we've ever seen in crypto before. And so finally, yeah, it's in the market and they're here and we asked for it, and so we got to deal with it. Anyway, happy Thursday, everybody. I'm Stefan Rust. I'm the founder of Truflation, as all of you know, and the Truth Network, which is powering Truflation as we see it. A lot of the data is transparent and visible for all of you to access and verify all of the calculations that are made available on truflation.com. We announced the PCE and the CPI. Why? Because we feel that the Bureau of Lagging Statistics and the lying statistics, depending which side you're on, hasn't been reporting accurately, timely, and not upping their methodology to a more modern calculation. And that's what we're doing here. So that's why we're here. Despite the shutdown, 37 days in, new record, all-time high in the shutdown economics. Shutdownonomics. I don't know. Give me a name. What do you think we should call it? Anyway, so we're going to talk today a bit about what's going on, who's holding up the economy. I really think it's the air traffic controllers, because people are flying around still and like crazy. And we're in November. We're heading into Thanksgiving season. We've got the holiday season. We've got ski season. People will be traveling more. And as that happens, the air traffic controllers have been not getting paid, or they have been getting paid, but maybe not their full pay over these last 37 days. And going forward, what would that look like? We're going to see a huge change in I think I've heard rumors of up to 700,000 people being furloughed. So we'll talk a bit about the shutdown. We'll talk about what that means for the economy. We'll talk about Truflation, and it's now live on Bloomberg. I've told you all, you're all seeing it, reference it, draw down on it. And not only is the Truflation CPI on Bloomberg, but so is the PCE, personal consumption expenditure. So that's also on there. We'll talk a little bit about Mamdani. A lot of you knew, it's in the news, so I have to talk about it. What does that mean? What are the problems? And we link that back to shelter. How does shelter play into all of this? There's a lot of buzz right now around shelter and how shelter is really leading the voter constituents to voting somebody that understands their base and is spewing a message that resonates with that constituent. And then we'll also be going into some of the implications there, along with where has Truflation been? It's been out in Miami. We've been in SmartCon. We've been in Rome. So Truflation is clearly growing its presence, and multiple people tackling different types of markets. And we believe in prediction markets and where that's going to go. So maybe if there's time left to do a bit of that. I do this every Tuesdays and Thursdays at the same time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time, and 6 p.m. European time, and now it's actually, unfortunately, due to time zone changes in Asia, it's 1 a.m. Asian time, which is a bit late for most of the people there. Although there's a big constituent in Asia that works US times. So they live in Asia, but work US time zones. Yeah, so they have special rooms. They have dark rooms. They have air conditionings in those rooms because it's a lot hotter in that environment, and they mimic nighttime in in that environment with dark out curtains and stuff like that. So it's pretty crazy. But it's amazing to see that digital nomads are leveraging the power of the internet. And what the internet represents is the new frontier. This is the new frontier. This is the spirit that was there to build America. We're now all becoming internet immigrants, I guess, internet migrants. Yeah, so those are all the new frontiers. And thanks to blockchain, we now have a lot of technologies that allow us to monetize our presence in the digital realms. So really cool to see. Glad you're all here. Thanks for listening. And of course, we're going into day 37 of the shutdown. And if you go to truflation.com, you will see exactly how many days we've shut down. And I'm just going to sign out here and share with you my screen. And then you can actually come in and see the homepage. Take me to the homepage. Here we go. And let me just share my screen because you don't see the screen. And we've also got something else that we can announce. Yippee. Here, come on, share screen. I'm going to take you here. So right now, we just had EJ Anthony, who you all heard on the last Spaces. He was there speaking with us. He was on Spaces back in 2024, I think it was. And he was the candidate to run the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. They viewed him as too young. We can't have young people do these things. No, we don't like that. So he's the chief economist at the Heritage Foundation, guys. I mean, he's somebody that's been in this space a long time, understands the importance of data, understands how to refine the data and how to change the economic model with the data, so that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics provides a framework for all participants to share their data, compose that data, verify and attest that data, and make that data available to all of the financial services analysts. Why is that so important? Because those analysts are the ones that are crunching numbers. They're forecasting where inflation's going to go. They're making their own predictions. They're going to pull in numbers from prediction markets. They're going to leverage Truflation to give them a CPI calculation. And all of those are combined and allows then those institutions that are using that data, that are then doing their own calculations, that is verified from a framework under which most likely the remaining government institutions are going to be verifying and using that data set to then forecast where inflation is going to go, to then price out what they want to invest in treasuries as it reflects their anticipation of inflation and what the premium needs to be to inflation in order to allocate funds and lock money in for 6 months, 1 year, 10 years, 30 years. So that's the model. And so it's a bit sophisticated, sorry, a bit more mathematically calculated. But yeah, that's sort of where we're at. Government shutdown, data blackout, no more government data for 36.1 days and 18 hours, or as I call it, 37. I round that up to the 24-hour mark where we go to 37 days. So 37 days to make it simple in the communication. Hope you forgive me for that. And I'm just trying to spread that out. But yeah, you can see that. And we can log in here. I am going to stop sharing quickly. Daniel DiMartino, she's going to possibly be on our next Spaces. I shouldn't say too much because she hasn't quite committed yet and we haven't locked it in yet. But hope you forgive me for that. And but yeah, always giving a little bit too much here. Yeah. So what does this mean? We're right now at. Let me share with you my screen again because you can't see it. Here we are walking down the street, singing "Do What Dee Dee Doo Dum Dee Dee Day." No, we're at the watch list here. I wanted to share my dashboard. So when you log into Truflation, you have your dashboard. You can highlight your watch list. If you're a premium member, you get more tickers and indexes that you can store, and then you can see all the different components here. Here again, the government data blackout offline for 36 days. All the meanwhile, Truflation always rising and shining to the occasion. 2.62% is Truflation's inflation today, coming down slightly off the top. But I think one of the interesting components, if you're following Truflation on share this tab instead. If you're following Truflation on X, please do so. And if you're not, you're missing out. Why? Because we highlight certain key factors here. We're seeing the service sector continue to stay strong. And we know the services sector slightly lags the goods sector. And you can see what's happening here. The goods also seem to be jumping. Demand is strengthening. New orders index jumped 56.2. Spending and business activity remains resilient. Demand pipelines intact. So the whole economy is good, right? We had this huge drop in stock market on, what was it, Tuesday to Wednesday, where it dropped huge amounts, largely AI companies saying the AI is over and trying to offload, but actually, there was a scare around Palantir actually being overvalued. I think it was 249 times forward earnings. Can a company grow that fast? And then we just had the earnings announcement from Palantir, and that's what sort of drove sort of a bit of an awakening, a shock that how high they'd gotten. But if you look at all the clients that they're working with and the insights that they have, their room for growth is phenomenal off the back of their platform, and they don't sell. They have their services and products bought, which is very different to a traditional software company. But anyway, that was, I think, one of the scares that people went through. But what else was going on? If you look at all these numbers here, we're seeing a really strong economy. Demand pipelines are intact. Manufacturing is, and as with manufacturing still in contraction, services remain the primary engine for U.S. growth. Employment improved, but remains in contraction. So you can read it here. So if you're not subscribed to it, and then add comments. If you have questions, comments, add them in here. Drive interaction. We will respond to those. We're very good at sharing insights and details associated with your questions, your comments in here. And then one of the things that you can see if you go to Truflation, so you go to truflation.com, you see our indexes, you have some buttons down here that are shaded out. Why? Because they're not highlighted. So what I can do here is then contrast and overlay these goods and services into here. So now you see goods and services, and you see a spike in goods. If you listen to our show last week, when was it? Last week? We talked that goods had just overtaken services and are now have a higher increase in price over services. And you can see here this spike in services. You can see back here the spike in goods. So a lot of these have been, and you can see the trends, the differences. So during inflationary times, we saw goods being a lot more expensive. This was during the COVID time period than services. And then after that, once it came down, we unlocked, then the goods dropped significantly, and then services started holding out. Yeah, but I mean, you're seeing a lot of different trends here. But here, look at this spike in services, bang, right? And then you can see back here, spike in goods, right? So ultimately, the services do lag the goods a little bit. And either way, I think the most important thing is, where is Truflation? And we saw inflation spike just around here, which was in line with the lag to the goods, but in line with the services. So you can see that there are correlations between services price hikes and the Truflation price hike. So pay attention. Where's the PCE in all of this? The PCE is, again, the cost of goods, not the cost of spending of a household. And how is the cost of personal consumption changing? And personal consumption. What are the goods that you are consuming? How are they changing in price? Not as how your overall basket is changing and how you're spending that money. So that's all a reflection in here. You can see, look at all these diverse aspects. You can then go and compare this to the Bureau of Lying Statistics. So you can also look at their numbers, and you can layer this into here, right? I mean, it's pretty cool. And you can see, again, Truflation showing very different numbers. You can compare it against the time horizon. You can compare it in aggregate, etc. So you've got all of those capabilities to have a look at. Yeah, so that's really what we're seeing. Ultimately, we're some 34 days into the shutdown, 37 days into the shutdown. And what does that mean, right? I mean, ultimately, we are still seeing traffic. I talked about it briefly earlier, right at the beginning, was where our travel is changing. Air traffic controllers are being impacted. A lot of industries are being impacted now due to this shutdown. And I think one of the things why we saw this huge drop in pricing, not only crypto, especially crypto, but also in the AI category. In the AI category might be people beginning to realize that there's an intra-sharing between the AI companies and revenue splitting between the companies. So companies sharing with each other, they all own equity in each other and trying to do that. So that was a bit of a scare. And then secondly, there was a huge scare also around the earnings multiples and forward earning multiples associated with a lot of these AI companies. That was a bit of scare, but bear in mind, I've gone through the mobile boom. I've gone through the dot-com boom. I've gone through the cloud boom and the SaaS boom, right? I've lived through these. I've lived through 4 crypto winters, or 5. I don't even remember how many they are. And each time the market gets it wrong. The market is reacting. Facebook and internet, nobody thought that was going to happen. Social media, they don't know how to make money. They'll never survive, except when they then spend $19 billion to buy a WhatsApp. Everybody blew their mind in the mobile industry. Why? Because we already have SMS messaging, but nobody wanted to pay constantly for every single message that they sent, which in the old days you had to do. Can you believe that? And then along came these WhatsApp messages in mobile. Along came social media, the social graph, the ability to connect and communicate on the internet. People started flocking to the internet, but they couldn't monetize it because it was all built out by centralized platforms. Anyway, and so people just don't understand. AI is the same kind of revolution. It's a whole change, and it will increase productivity. We have a lot of hallucination right now. Don't be scared. It's not going to take your job. Why? Because it's all hallucinating. It needs input verification. It needs output verification. And that lift is significant. However, that time in between where you're actually going to have to work and write it and draft it and think every sentence and work back and forth and iterate, that is taken off your shoulders. And that work will no longer be needed, but you'll need work on either side. We'll create whole new industries. And we talked about, what was it, the Jevons effect, or I can't remember what the name was, but we went through that whole paradox, right? New technologies will create new jobs. But either way, we had a huge decline because there's no positive news. We don't have any positive news in the world. Despite trade, China trade tariffs, people still haven't viewed that as strong and positive enough. We've got a weak market sentiment, as we have witnessed, right? So the market's always really cautious. Is it too high? Is it too low? But more importantly, we then have the macroeconomic sort of view where Jerome Powell comes in and says likely no more interest rate drops before the end of the year. And ultimately, the market took that really bad, right? That was not what they wanted to hear. If it was 25 basis points and maybe another one in December when they have their next meeting, then ultimately people could have digested that. People were hoping for more, but ultimately we didn't get more. We saw that 99% on the prediction markets, 99% of the people were anticipating a 25 basis point per drop. That's what we got, but not the fact that we won't get any more this year. As a result, due to the shutdown, the liquidity is being reduced. There's no money print to go, the treasury's not out there to stimulate the economy as it used to be. And so that's also having a bit of an impact. DeFi hack, there was a small DeFi hack on Balancer. That is a strong exchange. It's been around for a long time. And so they had a bit of a hack. And ultimately, those things combined had that big shock in the market that led to that decline earlier, and especially in crypto. Not to mention that the institutions are trying to shake out the retail market. The retail investors are the ones that got lost. And I think there are three categories in the retail category. There are people that have gone, are waiting on the sidelines to pounce into the market. So they've got a lot of dry powder. They're just waiting. They're waiting. They're not going to get the bottom of the bottom, and they're not going to get the top of the top, but they're going to get closer to that, maybe a bit more, but they're waiting till there's a bit more of a trend and visibility to where the market's going. There are those that got wrecked. They have nothing left. We've just been liquidated. There's no money left. And then there are those that are just buying and DCAing and just hodling and just steadily building and building. And then that's on the retail side. And then on the institution side, there's going to be a whole different kind of participants that are doing a whole different set of activities. And how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Thank you. Thank you, Tim to Kill. Always good to see you. Glad you're back. Thanks for coming back and constantly being a strong supporter, even in these tough times. So anyway, I wrote a bit of a post there. Here you can see about it. I'm talking long about that, but so I think that's one thing. I think also we talked about travel. Travel's a big thing, right? We're seeing a decline slightly in travel in this period. Where was this? This is since October 18th. So roughly during the shutdown, travel has come down a little bit. So it's slowly creeping down. But if you look over the 5-year period of time, we're sort of pretty high, close to an all-time high. We're coming to the winter season. And so Thanksgiving holidays coming around the corner. And so what does that mean? And what do airports look like? And thanks to the air traffic controllers, people are still traveling, right? We still have what do we have? Some 2 million travelers out there, 2.5 million travelers. Yeah, 2.5 million travelers still out there going. But it's getting hard. It's getting tough out there. I don't know if all of you have seen, but here, this is what it looks like. What? You guys, look at that. So I don't know if you were waiting to get to an airport, but my advice would be try and get there quicker and earlier in order to avoid those long queues. But did you see those queues? I just came back from Rome. I was at a conference over there and had some really interesting, really good meetings with one of our long-term advisors. He flew to Rome, and so we both met there the day in advance to this conference, and really, very productive. And maybe we'll share some things over the near term as well. So we're working, we're concocting, we're trying to build. We're trying to figure out ways and strategize on how we can scale and recover and get back stronger and win in this new market. I think one of the things that we really believe is how can we make. There was a video I wanted to share with you guys. Don't know where it is right now. But you're looking at the airport, they're holding up. What else is going on in the economy? We talked about the PMI and services sector, how they're holding on, the ISM services, the report there. And, we've been active, right? We're not only was I in Rome at the iGaming conference, we had Betty was over in the Futurist conference in the blockchain alongside the likes of, I think, Eric Trump was there or Donald Trump Jr. I'm not sure which one, but yeah, so we were there. Look how good Truflation's represented, nice on the boards, and sharing a lot about the Truflation story. So you could have seen us there, and if you were there, we had some good, interesting interactions there. We also were at the SmartCon, which is taking place right now in New York. Jared, our CTO, was there talking about our technological infrastructure at Truflation, aggregating 100 million data points, and then publishing that to the Truth Network and making that available to all other prediction markets. We've talked about converting and adding prediction market capability to Truflation.com. So that'll be coming very soon, where you can then predict on inflation numbers every single day. You don't need to wait for the month, and you can create, and we have a divergent index, and you can then bet on that as well. And so we're going to create these kinds of prediction markets on Truflation.com. We're seeing that inflation, the BLS, the Bureau of Lying Statistics, they on Polymarket are getting $1 million in trading volume just once a month. And if we can do that on a daily basis, if we can help you get better insight in terms of how Truflation is calculating, how the true inflation really works versus the lying statistics that we're getting, we just feel that that's a more attractive proposition, and people will like to have exposure on that. And then what will the exposure be between true inflation and lying statistics? And so what would that divergent be, and how can we take a position on that and maybe even hedge against that with the PCE or other asset classes that you might want to look at? And that's sort of what we'll be rolling out in the new year. So pretty excited about that. Yeah, so that's really a lot of activity, Truflation everywhere, all not shut down, not there. We're doubling down. We're trying to be in as many different venues as possible and provide you with as many different data sets as you could imagine and you would want to see and get. So yeah, the other thing, not only are we everywhere at conferences physically, we managed to get and work with Bloomberg to do an announcement associated with what we're doing. Now, Truflation live on Bloomberg. Not only is our Truflation up there, but so is the Truflation CPI and PCE, both now live on Bloomberg. So we're excited about that. And here we are talking about that. And a lot of our partners and friends out there that have been supporting us since the beginning are doing the same. Yeah, I think the other thing, the next thing is to really talk about is to move. That was sort of a bit on the economy, Truflation, how we're working. We talked a bit about the crash and what that means. But I think one of the other things that is obviously coming up is, which had a big impact this week, was the Mamdani election and him getting the vote. So Peter Levels, who we partner with and talk to around the deadlift index, a big supporter of Truflation as well. So thank you, Peter. But yeah, he's saying, good point. And he's responding to an email that Chamath shared out there around Peter Thiel's to Zuck and Andreessen. I guess it's to the Facebook board. I mean, he was on the Facebook board or still is. I don't know. Let me know if he still is. Anybody know? I don't know. But anyway, there are many themes that could have developed more like the Nick, But basically, he's talking about real estate, right? People are spending hundreds and thousands of dollars building up debt to go to school and finish their education to then get a job. Then they get a job. They can't get enough wealth to get onto the real estate ladder. They were promised that if you go to college, you go to university, you will get onto the ladder. You will be able to buy a property and real estate. You will be able to afford not having to live at home. And I think ultimately what Peter Levels is saying is that Mamdani is the left's Trump. And he won because he properly addresses the issues people care about now. And so they care about not being able to get onto lack of hopium, right? How do they get hopium? And I think Mamdani is giving them hope, because there's no hope to get on the ladder. How do they afford a house? They can't afford a house. There's not enough houses being built. And so the supply is being constrained. Why? Because the elites, the BlackRocks of the world, and all these REITs are all owning housing, and they're minimizing the production of new houses, the development of new real estate. Why? Because they want to control the price, because that's an asset on their balance sheet. If the price stays high, multiplied by the number of square foot that they own, means that they can use that as collateral to borrow against and deploy money in other assets, more liquid assets, instead of building new supply of houses and making that available to others at affordable prices, because those affordable prices will bring down the price per square foot, multiplied by all the square foot that they own will ultimately mean that their collateral has dropped as well. So this is what this is all about, right? But it's scary, right? Because ultimately, where will this go? Will we see an increase? The other thing Fred Krueger shared, and I don't know if this is, how many of you live in New York? What do you think? Maybe I should be talking to Anthony Pompliano and Scaramucci as well, who are big supporters of Truflation, on why, what does this mean for all people in crypto that are in New York? Bitcoin Justice Act, imposing mandatory Bitcoin tax on all New Yorkers. Man, I don't know, man. That's are you living in New York? How many of you are living in New York? I mean, what is this going to do to New York? Is everybody going to go to Wall Street South, which is Miami? How many of you are going to move? How many of you are going to leave New York? I got so many messages that now that Mamdani's mayor, I'm leaving New York. I'd be out of there anyway. Yeah. So Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani unveiled his boldest initiative yet, a citywide Bitcoin tax requiring every New Yorker to contribute to what he called the collective rebalancing of digital wealth. Too many Bitcoins are hiding in cold wallets, Mamdani said during a jubilant press conference at Union Square. We're bringing that liquidity back to the people, one confiscation at a time. Wow, that wasn't true. Fred's rage baited. What does that mean? So this wasn't real. Addressing the problem, one thing, the elephant in the room, how does actually change the problem now? Take me home. Okay, yeah, I don't understand the question, Tim, to kill. Let me know what you're trying to say. Yeah, I'm not sure if this was true, but yeah, hey, actually, this was a parody post. Mayor-elect Mamdani has not announced the Bitcoin. Okay, so thanks. This is the power of social media, when you can actually have, yeah, look, context is written by people who use X. So they set this into context, which is good. Okay, that's good to know. So, okay, we don't need to worry. I was laughing. I had not validated this. I just saw this before I came into the studio and thought I'd bring this up. But thanks for addressing that. So this is really, I hadn't seen this before. So this is great that we have corrected the actual post. And I thank you, Tim, to kill, for letting me know. Okay. Yeah, so maybe this is just jumping the gun a little bit. So that's good. Phew. Maybe not that bad, but either way, I think he's addressing a problem that needs to be addressed. And yeah, how do we give youth hope? And I think this is the greatest time to be alive. There is no more opportunity than we see today across crypto, across AI, across new opportunities, new services that can be built using AI. Use the tools that are available. We now have internet capital markets. You don't need to go. This is the new frontier. This is new opportunities. It's on the internet. Okay, it's not as beautiful in the mountains and outdoors in the sun by the beach, meeting real people all the time, but you're meeting a lot of interesting people online and through activities and providing great services to real people that have an impact to everybody. And that then allows you to aggregate and congregate during specific events. And what you see is people living in the internet capital markets. They roam around the world and they get together. They get together in Miami, they get together in New York or in Rome or in other cities for that fact. So yeah, just highlighting the differences and the opportunities that the internet is providing to everybody. So that's where the hope resides. And jurisdictions don't know how to deal with it. They're trying to control it. They're trying to ring fence it. They're trying to regulate it. They're trying to force compliance onto you on the internet. But ultimately, they can't. This transcends every single geography. How do you shut down Bitcoin? You can't shut down Bitcoin. Bitcoin is maintained by node operators and miners that are all over the world. So if you shut it down in one country, they just migrate to other countries around the world. And we saw that happen when China tried to shut it down. It just moved to the US and other markets all around the world. And if they shut it down in the US, where they tried to with Biden, they moved to other parts of the world. And then, etc. So this is how it evolves. You're seeing governments trying to mandate more stricter controls with Bitcoin. They're trying to push on people's CBDCs. Ultimately, the internet allows cross-jurisdiction transfer of money, of stable coins, etc. And so that's really beginning to happen. And there's no one jurisdiction that can control it. That's what they're worried about. And they're trying to put into all these regulations that try to control it in a given market. But if you're on the internet, where is your market? It is anywhere that allows you to connect to the internet. And so let's see how all this pans out. Centralization versus decentralization. And thanks to blockchain, we can now actually really, have true mobility and true capital that is generated on these capital markets. And one of those capital markets that we like a lot is prediction markets, right? And you can see here how the prediction markets are beginning to grow. This is such a burgeoning new industry. So if you're coming into the market, you're coming in to, the workforce, this is a market you can go. You all love sports. Everybody watches sports. Sports prediction is a big industry. I was just in Rome at a conference. There were 30,000 people that flew into this one conference, and it was just a segment of an overarching conference. It had 8 conference halls. It had booths stacked. It reminds me of Mobile World Congress when it moved from Cannes to Barcelona and took over the whole FIRA de Barcelona. And the FIRA became too small. They had to build a whole new exhibition center to be able to facilitate with 8, 10 different huge halls. And you're going to see this transcend as the application environment for internet capital markets. Financial services industry is Wall Street, and the prediction markets is the new industry and is going to replace financial services industries. And that is going to be on the internet. And that is going to be powered by the blockchain that sits on the internet. And so you can see already here in 1 year, we have an 822% increase in number of prediction markets out there. Only 20% of prediction market protocols have a token, right? So what does that mean? How does that work, right? Base leads with 10 protocols, Solana with 9. So you can see the whole ecosystem out there. You got permissionless markets, analytics markets, social markets, and all sorts of types of markets. And somewhere in here is index.fun. Where can we find index.fun? But so we've got a number of different markets in here that you can check out. And you're going to see lots of, there you go, index.fun in the social category where you can create your own index. It's in beta. Rush Trade was really cool what they're doing. By the second you're trading. All of these are going to need settlement with smart contracts, with agentic solutions for long tails. Because think about it, one prediction market is one market. One market sits on an app. That app is across different exchanges, blockchains. That blockchain reads, each one is a smart contract on each blockchain, and each one needs a attestation to service their settlement. Where do I get the attestation from? Okay, I can pull it from an Oracle. Yes, okay. I can use AI for settlement. I can use and UMA. What do they call it? It's their anyway, the referees. You can buy the referees, and they do the settlement for you. So those are all possibilities, but they all don't scale because they are so succinct to corruption. At some point, AIs can hallucinate. You can be misled financially by these people. Yeah, so Tim to Kill. My question is, what and how will New York City mayor actually make the cost of living affordable? Um, that's a different question to prediction markets. But anyway, let me just finish on prediction markets first. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say, that this market is going to grow. It's going to get more substantive. It's going to get more niche, more focused on specific areas. And the ecosystem around this is going to grow. And this is a way to communicate complex financial products to a retail user and industry, where you can buy binary options simply. And what can you trade? How can I identify correlations? And then you can use all these AI tools to support your trading, to support your decision making, and identifying correlations between one index and another one, between one market and another one, between one prediction and another prediction. And so that's where the market's going to go. What does that look like? How does that manifest itself? That is the exploration phase that we're embarking on right now. So be a part of it. Yeah, that's all I wanted to cover today. Hope you enjoyed that and found that useful. But I am going to come back to Tim to Kill's question, which is, my question is, what and how will New York City Mayor, so Mamdani, actually make the cost of living affordable? And so he's got a number of different mandates. I'm not sure whether they will work, because ultimately we've seen what happens under if you try to set and control pricing. It works really well in China, where you've had price control. But a lot of the representatives in China are all educated and have gone through the Communist Party from young to old. They've gone through competitive environments with millions and millions and millions of people going through the whole vetting process of junior Communist Party to senior to, it's a whole education process and filtration process that once you get to the top, you've actually gone and are out there and have made very clear your stances and built your loyalties in terms of how you are helping the nation move forward. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think that's going to be, my belief is making property affordable, and then housing zones, right? Unlocking housing restrictions, housing development, and allowing the creation and development of new housing. I think that will bring about affordability. And yeah, that, I think, and if property hasn't been used for a certain period of time, is just sitting empty and idle, how do you make that available and unlock that? So those would be examples. I don't think owning grocery stores and is the right solution, to be honest. But yeah, either way, I think, yeah, because then it'll become a DMV, right? I mean, anybody gone to the DMV lately? How simple and how easy and how streamlined a process has that been? Not. And so, do you want your grocery experiences to be like that? Do you want your purchasing experience to be like that? Not really. And so that it needs to be addressed. But yeah, let's see how is time will tell. We'll see what the experience is like. And we will very clearly, very quickly find out. Yeah. So I don't know if you have any questions. Somebody's here. Somebody's giving me a chat. What are we getting here? Whisper backstage. No, nothing. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, I would love to come back, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Next week, I will be back Tuesday, same time, same place, and be a lot more focused. Let's hope we have a good weekend and get recovery over the next couple of days. Thanks everybody for listening. Sign up, follow, do the likes. You know what to do. We're here. Love to support you and continue to do this if you find this valuable. And if not, then go somewhere else. Thanks everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. And see you on Tuesday, the other side. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.